NFHS Basketball Preseason Guide for 2024-25. No fakers allowed. NFHS creates new flopping definition and penalty. While foregoing some of the major rules alterations that have occurred in recent seasons, the NFHS Basketball Rules Committee still took plenty of action during its annual April meeting in Indianapolis in advance of the 2024-25 season. The committee, and subsequently the NFHS Board of Directors, approved a dozen rule changes, highlighted by the creation of a new definition of and a new penalty for faking being fouled, and a change to the categorization of certain technical fouls. Warning for faking being fouled, Rule 49, new, 644G, 1221H, new, and 1046F. In an attempt to clean up the actions of players trying to fool officials into ruling fouls on plays where no illegal contact has occurred, a new definition has been created for faking being fouled, or flopping, that includes a warning for a first team offense and a team technical foul for all subsequent infractions. This replaces previous rules book language that required a player technical foul for a first violation. The new definition includes actions such as overtly embellishing the impact of incidental contact on block charge plays or attempted tries for goal using a head bob to simulate illegal contact, or using any other tactics to create an opinion of being fouled and therefore gaining an advantage. The warning for the first offense is recorded in the scorebook and reported to the head coach following the ruling. When a defensive player is the offender, the official should not disrupt play and take away the advantage that may exist for the team that is not being warned. However, the ruling official will use new signal number 15 in the official NFHS signal chart to indicate a flopping ruling when it occurs. Play 1. Ball handler A1 is driving to the basket against defender B2. During the drive, B2 falls to the playing court without contact in an attempt to fool the trail official into thinking A1 has committed a player control foul. A1 dribbles past B2 and converts a successful layup. No warnings for faking being fouled have been issued against Team B to this point. Ruling 1. The trail official does not blow a whistle when B2 falls to the floor, but gives the signal for flopping once B2 scores the goal and the ball becomes dead. The trail official will blow the whistle, stop the clock, and issue a team warning for faking being fouled, reporting it to the head coach and ensuring it is recorded in the scorebook. Play 2. Ball handler A1 catches a pass from a teammate and turns to face the basket. As defender B2 approaches, A1 bobs the head in an attempt to fool the trail official into thinking B2 has committed illegal contact against a ball handler. Team A has previously been issued a team warning for faking being fouled. Ruling 2. The trail official will blow the whistle to stop play and issue a team technical foul to Team A. The foul will be added to Team A's team foul count, but not to A1's 5 fouls toward disqualification. Any player or substitute of Team B will be awarded 2 free throws with the lane cleared, and play will resume with a Team B throw-in at the division line opposite the scorer's table. Team technical 10-7 new. The penalty for dunking or attempting to dunk or stuff a dead ball during pregame and or intermission has been changed from a bench technical foul to a team technical foul. Doing so means the offending player will not have a personal foul charged that counts toward disqualification, and the offending team's head coach will not lose the privilege of using the coaching box. Play 3. At the 5-minute mark before the scheduled start of the game, A1 is observed attempting to dunk. Ruling 3. Team A is issued a team technical foul. The technical foul is added to Team A's team foul count. The game will begin with 2 free throws awarded to any Team B player or substitute, followed by a throw-in for Team B at the division line opposite the scorer's table. Team A's head coach retains the privilege of using the coaching box. Administrative, bench, team technicals, Rules 10-1-1 penalty, 10-1-2 penalty, 10-2-7 penalty, new, 10-5-1 penalty, new. All pregame administrative, team, and bench technical fouls that occur during the pregame will now offset if they occur in equal numbers between the two teams, and no free throws are awarded, allowing the game to begin with a jump ball. Also, the head coach of the offending teams does not lose the privilege of the coaching box. Play 4. At the 10-minute mark prior to the scheduled starting time, Team A has not supplied to the official scorer the name and number of each team member, and the officials rule an administrative technical foul. At the 5-minute mark, B1 is observed making a dunk, and Team B is issued a team technical foul. Ruling 4. Both Team A and Team B will begin the game with one foul in their respective team foul counts. However, no free throws are awarded as the two pre-game technical fouls offset, and the game will begin with a jump ball. Team B's head coach does not lose the privilege of using the coaching box. Substitution 3-3-6. A player who has been injured must be removed from the game if the coach is beckoned by an official, whether or not the coach enters the playing court, or if bench personnel, for example a coach or athletic trainer, enters the court without being beckoned. The rationale for the rule change is either the beckoning or the entrance to the player court necessitates the substitution, and both actions are not necessary for a required substitution to result. The coach may still use a timeout to continue assessment of the injury and allow the injured player to remain in the game. Play 5. While chasing down a loose ball, A1 and B2 collide and the ball rolls out of bounds. A1 begins clutching her knee, at which point A. The officials beckon Team A's coach onto the playing court, but the coach does not enter, or B. Team A's athletic trainer enters the court before the officials request anyone to attend to the injured player. Ruling 5. A1 must leave the game in both A and B unless Team A's coach requests a timeout to allow A1 to remain in the game. Substitution 2-12-6 and 3-3-7. A team is now allowed 20 seconds to address any minor blood on the body or uniform of a player without that player having to leave the game. If the blood cannot be appropriately covered or cleaned within 20 seconds, the head coach may use a timeout to address the issue or substitute for the player. Play 6. In the second quarter, the officials notice A1 has A. blood on the jersey or B. blood on the forearm after being scratched. Ruling 6. The officials should stop play in both A and B, direct A1 to the team bench, and notify Team A's head coach there is an issue with blood on A1. The official timer should start a 20-second clock, with a first horn sounded with 15 seconds remaining, and a second horn at the end of the 20-second interval. At that point, if the blood has not been adequately covered or cleaned, Team A's head coach may request a timeout to further address the issue, or substitute another team member for A1. Uniforms 3-4-3, 3-4-4A new. A rule passed prior to the 2019-20 season takes effect this year, as the option to have jersey numbers that are the same color as the predominant color of the jersey has been eliminated. The two remaining legal options are a solid contrasting number with no more than 2 solid colored 1/4 inch borders around the entire number, or a solid contrasting number with a shadow trim of a contrasting color on part of the number not to exceed 1/2 inch in width, and that may be used with 1/4 inch border. Also new this year, teams may now place a school logo or mascot image on the front of the jersey, centered directly above the uniform number in place of an identifying name. This removes the restriction of allowing only lettering on the front of the jersey. Basket interference 4-6-1 exception new. An exception has been added to the definition of basket interference. A player is allowed to touch only the net while the ball is on or within the basket, provided the contact does not affect the ball, allowing play to continue. Play 7. A1's try attempt is in the basket but has not cleared the bottom of the net when A2, anticipating the try being missed, jumps and makes contact with the net. Ruling 7. If, in the official's judgment, the contact with the net has not had an effect on the ball, the touching is ignored. Closely guarded 4-10, 9-10-1A note new. In states using the 35-second shot clock, state associations may now adopt a modification to the closely guarded rule that allows players to dribble the ball for more than 5 seconds while closely guarded. As such, a closely guarded violation would only occur if a player holds the ball while closely guarded for 5 continuous seconds. Warning for delay 4-47-5 new, 10-2-1G new, and 10-4-5B. A new 5th delay warning has been added to Rule 447 to address when a player fails to immediately pass the ball to the nearest official when a whistle sounds. Previously, such actions were subject to being ruled a player technical foul, which would count against a player's 5 fouls toward disqualification. Now this situation is handled the same as the 4 other delay warnings in 447, with a warning for delay issued on a first occurrence and a team technical foul for any subsequent Rule 447 violation. Out of bounds, player or ball 7-1-1. A rewrite of this rule establishes a player is out of bounds if contact by a teammate or other bench personnel outside the boundary line of the playing court provides an advantage that allows the player to remain in bounds. Electronic devices, 119. A rewrite of this rule limits the use of electronic devices used during a game for the purposes of recording and tracking stats, reviewing or diagramming plays, or other similar contest-related functions. Scorer's duties, 2-11-11. Non-official scorers are required to compare records with the official scorer when multiple scorers are present. If there is a discrepancy, the official scorer must notify the referee immediately. Major editorial changes. The committee also made several major editorial changes for the 2024-25 season. Clarification that scoring, timing, and bookkeeping errors are not reviewable after the game official's jurisdiction has ended, while state associations may intercede on a case-by-case basis for unusual incidents outside these areas. 224 note. One visible manufacturer's logo, trademark, or reference may be placed anywhere on the team jersey provided it does not interfere with the visibility of the uniform number and meets all size specifications, as in Rule 342A. Clarification that team control during a throw-in only applies to fouls committed by the offense. Therefore, 3-second and backcourt violations are not in effect. Additionally, this clarifies team control as the result of a throw-in remains in that team's control until player control is established by either team. See 4.12.2 note new, 9.7.1 note new, and 9.9.3 note new. Support of language in the NFHS casebook that asserts officials should ignore an intentional throw-in plane violation or a player interfering with the ball following a goal when the clock is running and there are 5 seconds or less on the game clock, as in 9.2.10 note 2 new. Clarification that after a warning is issued during an alternating possession throw-in, the throw-in remains an alternating possession throw-in. See 9.2 penalty 1. In addition to the new signal for flopping or faking being fouled, signal number 21 has been renamed Delayed Violation Withheld Whistle and shall be used to signal when players step out of bounds on their own volition. Also, signal number 25 has been renamed Backcourt and First to Touch from Out of Bounds Violation and shall be used to signal the violation once the player is first to touch the ball after returning to the playing court. NFHS 2024-25 Points of Emphasis. The NFHS Basketball Rules Committee has issued 3 points of emphasis, or POE, for the 2024-25 season. They are not listed in priority order and are considered of equal importance. Warning for delay. One of the officials' roles is to ensure the game maintains an appropriate pace of play, including throughout the administration of penalties, throw-ins, free throws, etc. NFHS rules allow for officials to give an initial warning to teams that violate Rule 447, which defines a warning for delay as an administrative procedure by an official that is recorded in the scorebook by the scorer and recorded to the head coach. Warnings may be issued for the following. First, throw-in plane violations. Second, huddle by either team or contact with the free thrower that delays the administration of free throws. Third, interfering with the ball following a goal. Fourth, failure to have the court ready following a timeout, or fifth, new in the 2024-25, failure to immediately pass the ball to the nearer official. Any 2 delay warnings will result in a team technical foul. The warnings do not have to be issued for the same reason or to the same player or team member to escalate to a team technical foul. Officials must utilize the warnings for delay as soon as the behavior occurs. Doing so allows the behavior to be addressed early. Faking being fouled. Faking being fouled was added to the NFHS Basketball Rules book 20 years ago as an unsporting foul committed by a player, resulting in a player technical. It continues to be a point of concern for the Rules Committee. As such, this year the Rules Committee added a warning, 449, and defined faking being fouled as overtly embellishing the impact of incidental contact on block charge plays or attempted tries for goal, using a head bob to simulate illegal contact, or using any other tactics to create an opinion of being fouled and therefore gaining an advantage. A warning will now be issued for the first instance, lessening the severity of the penalty while continuing to address the behavior. A technical foul will be assessed to the team for each subsequent occurrence. Officials will utilize the new signal number 15 in the NFH signal chart at the time the flop occurs. Providing officials with an opportunity to warn a player before issuing a technical foul will allow players to adjust their behaviors before receiving a harsher penalty. Proper procedures for handling blood. Previously, when an injury occurred that involved blood on a player and/or a uniform, play was stopped immediately and the player was directed to leave the game until the bleeding was stopped, the wound was covered, the uniform and/or body was appropriately cleaned, and/or the uniform was changed before returning. See Rule 337. Often, the situation can be resolved quickly by covering the wound with a bandage and/or properly cleaning a uniform and/or player's skin. A new rule for 2024-25 provides a team with 20 seconds to address a player who is bleeding or has blood on the uniform without being charged a timeout. Officials should allow the player to report to the sideline near the team bench before signaling the timer to begin the 20-second timer. If resolved within the 20-second time limit, the player will be permitted to remain in the game. If the issue is not resolved within 20 seconds, a coach may request a timeout to allow the player to remain in the game. Flashback 2023-24 NFHS rules changes. After a few off-seasons of relatively small alterations to the rules book, the NFHS Basketball Rules Committee opted for significant changes for the 2023-24 season during its annual meeting in Indianapolis. Bonus free throws 4-8-1. The traditional 1-and-1 bonus that had been a staple of high school basketball for decades is no more. The NFHS now follows the model implemented at the NCAAW level in 2015 that awards 2 free throws on all common fouls, except for a player control or team control foul, beginning with the 5th team foul in each quarter. As such, team fouls will be reset to 0 at the end of each quarter. The committee's rationale for the rule change was multifaceted. It is believed the game will have a better flow by allowing teams that run into early foul trouble in each half the opportunity to self-correct their style of play at the outset of both the second and fourth quarters, and not have the bonus immediately come into play. By eliminating the 1-and-1, the number of opportunities are significantly reduced for correctable errors that result from awarding an unmerited free throw or failing to award a merited free throw. Finally, the guarantee of 2 free throws eliminates the physical play that has often been associated with rebounding action on the first free throw. Play 1. Late in the first quarter, A1 is dribbling the ball on the perimeter when B2 is whistled for a hand-checking foul. It is Team B's 5th foul of the first quarter. Ruling 1. A1 is awarded 2 free throws, with play resuming from the result of the second free throw. Play 2. At the end of the first quarter, Team A has 3 team fouls and Team B has 6. Early in the second quarter, A1 and B2 are battling for a rebound near Team B's basket, and the officials rule a pushing foul on B2. The teams begin to line up at Team A's basket to shoot free throws. Ruling 2. The team fouls reset at the end of the first quarter. This is the first team foul against Team B in the second quarter. Team A is entitled to a designated spot throw-in in the backcourt nearest the spot of the foul. Play 3. Team A has committed 6 team fouls in the fourth quarter. A1 drives to the basket, makes contact with B2, and is assessed a player control foul. Because it is the 7th team foul against Team A in the quarter, B2 walks to the free throw line in anticipation of shooting 2 free throws. Ruling 3. The foul committed by A1 is a player control foul. Free throws are never awarded on player control or team control fouls. Team B is entitled to a designated spot throw-in in the backcourt nearest the spot of the foul. Play 4. Team B has committed 4 team fouls in the fourth quarter. A1 drives to the basket and is fouled after becoming an airborne shooter and makes the try. Ruling 4. This is Team B's 5th team foul of the quarter. However, A1 is awarded only 1 free throw because the foul occurred during the act of shooting and the try was successful. Play 5. The score is tied 60-60 at the end of the fourth quarter. Each team has committed 4 team fouls. Soon after Team A wins the jump ball to start overtime, A1 is dribbling the ball up the court when B2 commits a common foul. Ruling 5. The extra period is an extension of the fourth quarter. Therefore, the team fouls do not reset. This is the 5th foul by Team B, and A1 is awarded 2 free throws, with play resuming as a result of the second free throw. Resumption of play procedure. Throw-ins 7-5-2, 7-5-3, 7-5-4, and 7-4-5 new. No longer are officials tasked with determining the exact throw-in spot when play is going to resume in the front court following a violation, common foul, or the ball becoming dead. Instead, the NFHS has taken a page out of the NCAA men and women's rulebooks, adopting 4 designated spots for these throw-ins. These spots are either the nearest 28-foot mark along each sideline or the nearest spot 3 feet outside the lane on the end line. The basis for determining whether these types of throw-ins are from the sideline or the end line has not changed, as they remain closest to the spot where the violation or foul occurred. The only change is each of these throw-ins now occurs at one of these 4 designated spots. Also, when the ball simply goes out of bounds, as described in Rule 7.1.2, touched by a player who is out of bounds, touches any other person, the floor, or any object that is on or outside a boundary, touches the supports or back of the backboard, touching the ceiling, overhead equipment or supports, that throw-in spot remains the exact location where the ball became dead. The rationale for the rule change is it allows teams to develop throw-in plays both offensively and defensively from 4 predetermined locations, and eliminates much of the judgment for an official about where exactly the throw-in spot should be located. Play 6. A1 is dribbling the ball in the front court outside the 3-point arc in front of her team's bench when she is fouled by B2. It is Team B's 4th team foul of the quarter. Ruling 6. Team A is awarded a front court designated spot throw-in at the 28-foot mark on the table side of the floor. Play 7. While holding the ball on the wing opposite the table in the front court, A1 attempts to make an entry pass to teammate A2 on the low block. B3, who is standing between the lane line and the 3-point arc, sticks his leg out and makes contact with the ball and is whistled for a kicking violation. Rule 7. Team A is awarded a front court designated spot throw-in 3 feet outside the lane on the end line opposite the table. Play 8. A1 is dribbling the ball in the backcourt when B2, standing in the front court opposite the table between the lane line and the 3-point arc, is whistled for a foul for holding A3. Ruling 8. While the ball was in the backcourt when the foul was committed, the ensuing throw-in for Team A takes place in the front court because of the location of the foul. Because it is a front court throw-in resulting from a foul, it must go to one of the 4 designated spots, in this instance 3 feet outside the lane line opposite the table. Play 9. A1 is dribbling the ball in the backcourt opposite the scorer's table near the division line. A2 steps into the backcourt to set a screen on B3 to free up A1. The trail official rules an illegal screen on A2. Ruling 9. While the ball was in Team A's backcourt when the foul was committed, the ensuing throw-in for Team B takes place in its front court because of the location of the foul. Because it is a front court throw-in resulting from a foul, it must go to one of the 4 designated spots, in this instance the 28-foot mark opposite the scorer's table. Play 10. A1 is dribbling the ball in the backcourt when A2 and B3, standing in the front court outside the 3-point arc opposite the table, are whistled for a double foul. Ruling 10. Following double personal fouls, play resumes at the point of interruption. Team A is awarded a designated spot throw-in in the backcourt nearest the spot of the ball. Play 11. A1 is in the backcourt and throws a long pass down the sideline toward A2. B3 steps in front of the pass and catches it with 1 foot on the sideline 5 feet away from the end line. Ruling 11. Team A is awarded a designated spot throw-in at the location where B3 caused the ball to go out of bounds. Throw-in administration 7.6.6. When an official administers a throw-in to the wrong team, the officials may now rectify the mistake if it is recognized at any time before the first dead ball after the ball becomes live, unless there is a change in possession. Prior to the rule change, the officials only had until the end of the throw-in to correct the mistake. The change allows a more reasonable time frame for the officials to make their correction. However, this correction is not, by definition, a correctable error. Play 12. Team A has a designated spot throw-in. Before the throw-in begins, Team B requests a timeout. After the 2 teams return to the floor following the conclusion of the timeout, the trail official administers the throw-in to B1. The officials notice their mistake, A, while B1 is holding the ball, B, while B1's inbound pass is airborne but not yet caught by B2, C, after B2 catches the inbound pass and starts to dribble toward the team basket, D, after the inbound pass is intercepted by A3, E, after B2 catches the inbound pass and scores a goal, or F, after B2 catches the inbound pass and is fouled by A3. Ruling 12. In A, B, and C, the officials may correct their mistake, stop play, and award the throw-in to Team A. In C, the officials also should reset the game clock if they have definite knowledge about the time on the clock when the throw-in was administered. In D, because there was a change of possession and the correct team gained possession before there was a dead ball, the mistake is ignored. In E and F, the dead ball created by the goal and or the foul closes the window for the mistake to be corrected, and play continues from that point. Out of bounds, 9-3-3. Any player who steps out of bounds under the player's own volition shall not be the first player to touch the ball after returning to the playing court. This is a violation. It is also a violation if a player intentionally steps out of bounds to avoid a violation. Prior to the rule change, any player who stepped out of bounds under the player's own volition had committed a violation. However, officials often ignored such activity because it had no effect on the play. This tweak now stops the game and takes away a possession from the offensive team only when an advantage is gained by the player intentionally going out of bounds. The change also now mirrors the NCAA men and women's rule. Play 13. Team A has the ball in the front court. While A1 is dribbling, A2 sets a screen near the end line for teammate A3, who runs out of bounds to get around it. A1 passes the ball to A3, who has returned to the playing court and is standing open in the corner beyond the three-point arc. Ruling 13. This is a violation on A3 for being the first to touch the ball after returning to the playing court. Play 14. Same scenario as play 13. However, when A1 makes the pass to A3, B4 is able to get a hand on the ball and deflect it. A3 chases down the loose ball and is the first player to touch it following B4's deflection. Ruling 14. So long as A3 had returned to the playing court prior to the deflection, this is a legal play. If A3 was still out of bounds when B4 deflected the ball, A3 would be guilty of a violation for the first touch after returning to the playing court. Play 15. A1 is in the lane in the front court. A1, recognizing that a 3-second violation is imminent, steps across the end line and out of bounds unforced in an attempt to avoid the violation. Ruling 15. This is a violation on A1 because A1 stepped out of bounds on purpose to avoid the 3-second violation. Team members' equipment and apparel 3, 5, 6. Team members now have a new color option when it comes to their undershirts when they are wearing their visiting team dark jerseys. If worn, undershirts may now be solid black or a single color similar to the torso of the jersey. Team members may wear either color, but everyone must match. The rationale for the change is undershirts matching certain dark jersey colors like maroon and purple are not easy to find or are expensive, while black is consistent with other apparel requirements such as headbands, sleeves, and tights. Play 16. A1, A2, A3, and A4 are all wearing black undershirts under their purple jerseys. A3 is wearing a purple undershirt. Ruling 16. Upon discovery, the officials shall inform the head coach the players may wear either black or purple, but not both. Play 17. Team A is the visiting team and is wearing maroon jerseys. Team B is the home team and is wearing white jerseys. A1 is wearing a black undershirt and no other team members are wearing undershirts. The entire Team B roster is wearing black undershirts as well. Ruling 17. A1 is wearing a legal undershirt. All Team B players are wearing illegal undershirts, as Team B is the home team and is wearing the designated white jerseys. Uniforms 3, 4, 5. Teammates may wear multiple styles of uniform bottoms, including shorts, skirts, or pants, so long as they are light-colored. Not all team members need to wear the same style. However, all styles must meet uniform legalities related to visible manufacturer logos and trademarks. Play 18. A1, A2, and A3 are wearing shorts. A4 is wearing a pleated skirt. A5 is wearing pants. All 5 are wearing the same shade of green. Ruling 18. All of these uniform bottoms are legal. Game and table officials 2, 1, 3 note. In states where a shot clock is used, the shot clock operator shall be located at the scorer's and timer's table. The rationale is this allows the officiating crew to quickly identify the person who is operating the shot clock should there be a timing error compared to if the operator is located somewhere else in the gym. Every second counts. There are many attributes a basketball official must master to manage a game. Among them are some of the obvious: play calling, properly applying the rules, and teamwork. One talent that can bring about impressive control of your game but is mastered by few is accurate clock management. Time is crucial in a basketball game. A game can be decided at the very last second, whether the ball left the shooter's hand before the sound of the horn or if it was too late. For the common fan, it's obvious seconds matter at the end of the game, but to officials, time is relevant for the entire contest. That said, clock management is a skill that is foreign to many high school basketball officials across the country. We simply must do a better job with our knowledge of the game clock and shot clock if used. Let's take a look at some of the ways we can immediately improve this aspect of our game. By getting a good grasp on clock management, we can immensely improve our confidence and game administration. An official can be a good clock manager by simply practicing observing the clock throughout the game. At first, it may be difficult to remember to look or clumsy to gauge the time along with all the other information we must process. Here are instances in which we should make it a habit to check the clocks. After every whistle. When the ball is legally touched when the clock is not running. Every change of possession. After made field goals and free throws. After missed field goals and free throws. The entire crew should be cognizant of the clocks after play stops and when it starts. When there is a whistle, does the clock actually stop? After the ball is legally touched, does it start when it should? These are the obvious points of the game when the ball is in play. However, in states utilizing the shot clock, we must also have knowledge if the shot clock stops on a whistle for a dead ball. We should be aware if the shot clock is accidentally reset, or if time needs to be adjusted. On the other end of the spectrum, both clocks should be properly started when the ball comes into play. Knowing the time on the clock is pertinent on a change of possession, whether it is caused by a violation, dead ball, or a steal while the clock is running. Officials must make sure the shot clock is reset on this change of possession. Also, having awareness of the game clock will help you if the shot clock operator happens to get distracted and doesn't reset. Again, this is a skill all officials on the court must exercise. For made field goals, there will be a change of possession. The game clock will still be running, but the shot clock operator should be holding the reset button until the ball comes back into play for the team making the throw-in. This action is the shot clock operator literally holding the reset button as a way to pause the clock until the ball is touched. Officials must recognize these actions as the new offensive team inbounds the ball. Following a successful free throw, the officials should ensure both the game clock and shot clock properly start as the ball is legally touched inbounds. Finally, for missed shot attempts regardless of who gets the rebound, the shot clock resets if the attempt hits the ring. For missed free throw attempts, we need to be aware when the ball is touched and if both clocks have started at that time. Partners should be aware of which official has an active matchup between players. Those officials that don't should realize the primary official who has a decision to make may not be able to note the movement of the clocks, although the really good official can do this well. The other officials should be aware of the clocks and be ready to take action if there is a malfunction or timing error. At the very least, they should have some knowledge of the clocks being incorrect. If there is a timing mistake, officials should know the correct ways to fix the clocks. What are some ways to make clock corrections? Direct knowledge. This is the most ideal way to make corrections. For example, there is an out-of-bounds violation, but the possession does not change. The game clock does not stop immediately and 3 seconds tick off. Meanwhile, the shot clock, if used, is also reset. When the officials are trained to look at the clocks on whistles, this will be the easiest fix. The official should report to the table, the clock did not stop, and shot clock was erroneously reset. With direct knowledge of the time that should be on both the game clock and the shot clock, they both can be corrected and the game can resume immediately. Backcourt count. When using the shot clock, if there is a change of possession and the shot clock is not reset, an official who is using the backcourt count signal can make the correction based on his or her visible count. NFHS rules state where no visible count is used, definitive knowledge by the official may be used. Ideally, it is recognized within the first 2 or 3 seconds. This would be due to the official being trained to glance at the clocks with each change of possession. Other things to consider. Make sure you know the rule on a legal try or tap at the end of a quarter or game. On clocks that display tenths of a second, whenever play is resumed and the clock starts again via a throw-in or missed free throw, a try is no longer allowed if the game clock or shot clock shows 0.3 seconds or less remaining. Only a tap is legal in these situations. This means a catch and shoot cannot happen. If there is a timing mistake at the end of a period, have specific knowledge when adjusting the clock. Knowing the time you decide on may create a situation where a try is not possible. Sometimes a ball is inbounded but not legally touched. Does time have to come off the clock in this instance? There is no rule that states time should come off the clock. For example, if an inbound pass is directly kicked by either team, it is a violation. Since the touch is not legal, the officials do not have to take time off the game clock. Officials have a multitude of responsibilities throughout a game. As if there is not already enough to do, awareness of time is very important. A good game manager is a good clock manager. Having crafted this part of the game, an official can get far with credibility and certainty. Screen gems. Managing freedom of movement in basketball is one of the most inconsistent areas of officiating today. At the heart of this is properly judging screens to be legal or illegal. Doing it well is critical to players being able to use their athleticism and to officials in controlling the game. The annual points of emphasis, or POEs, regularly identify restricting freedom of movement as something to be cleaned up. Meanwhile, many players, coaches, and fans think a little body contact and creating traffic is a valid part of the game. Officials stand in the chasm between, charged with arbitrating this disconnect in a way that pleases everyone. They can't. It's another one of those cases where we are asked to enforce the rules as written, regardless of our own opinion. Let's review the basics of legal screening to see what has to be done. Basketball was designed with the intention of avoiding physical contact in an indoor setting. Players could run, jump, and throw, but not push, hold, or tackle their opponents as the rugby players who first took up Dr. Naismith's game were trained to do. As the game grew from infancy, a serious issue arose. Any group of players moving quickly in a confined area were inevitably going to contact an opponent. Was any contact a foul? If it was, were players allowed to tactically stand in an opponent's way, forcing the opponent to change direction? Then, if there was contact, whose fault was it? The person forcing the change of direction, or the player who couldn't change direction quickly enough? To sort it out, the definition of this tactic, a screen, evolved. This is how it reads today. NFHS Rule 441. A screen is legal action by any player who, while touching the playing court without causing contact, delays or prevents an opponent from reaching a desired position. Any player means, while we usually think of Team A screening, setting a pick on Team B, it works the other way too. Team B can screen Team A. Consider this situation. Play 1. After a basket, A1 is inbounding the ball against a full court press. A2 cuts along the end line where B3 is standing. They collide, knocking B3 to the floor. Ruling 1. This could be a legal screen by B3, resulting in a team control foul to A2. Whether the foul is on B3 instead depends on knowing the elements of a legal screen. For a screen to be legal, the screener, 1, may face in any direction, 2, must give the target a reasonable chance to avoid contact, 3, must be stationary unless moving in the same path and direction, and 4, must maintain verticality with no body parts extending out of the plane of the torso, Rule 445. The first point allows a screener to turn and brace for impact, but also allows that player to sometimes be a screen without realizing it. In all contexts of the rules, when a player establishes a position on the floor, no opponent has the right to displace him or her. This puts the onus on moving players to watch where they're going as they run around the court. The second point balances the equation by requiring the screener to avoid blindsiding the opponent. A screen is supposed to be passive and not intended to create unavoidable contact. Being stationary in the third point is consistent with not causing contact, as in 441. The final point is the crux of many disputes. Extending a hand, elbow, arm, knee, foot, or rump out of verticality is defined by this rule as causing contact. Understanding this, let's revisit Play 1 with some more detail added. Play 2. Same as Play 1, but B3A is guarding A3 and doesn't see A2 coming. B sees A2 coming and crouches slightly, turning the shoulder protect against impact. C sees A2 coming and jumps in the way to draw contact. D is standing still when contacted by A2, or E extends a knee or elbow to interfere with A2. Ruling 2. In A and B, B3's screen is legal. E is illegal because B3 wasn't legally vertical, and the offending body part was part of the screen. Meanwhile, the legality of C and D depends on the timing of the event and A2's focus of attention and resulting visual field at the time of impact. A player is expected to be alert to impending contact within the visual field around them, see 447. That being stated, the screen's legality depends on who is moving. If the screener is in the field of view of the target, whether or not the target is moving, the onus is on the target to avoid the screen. If not in the target's field of view, the onus is on the screener to give the target reasonable time and distance to change course. That means if both players are stationary, the screener must permit the target a full step back to avoid contact. If the target is moving, he or she still has the requirement to be looking around to avoid contact. The avoidance distance is deemed to be not more than 2 steps or strides prior to contact, depending on how quickly the target is moving. See 4:45. Essentially, the official must decide who is more responsible for the contact in such cases. Keep in mind the direction the target is moving isn't necessarily within his or her visual field. A defender following a dribbler across the top of the lane could be traveling east-west while looking north. Even if the target never sees the screen coming, the target can still be charged with the foul for displacing the stationary player. With this in mind, let's get back to play 2. Play 3. Same as play 2, resolving situations C and D. Ruling 3. In these cases, A2 is moving, and the official must decide whether B3 has become stationary before contact, as in D, but has allowed sufficient time and distance for A2 to react and evade the screen. Conventional wisdom is there should be a breath for A2 to recognize and avoid contact. Teammates calling picks can be helpful here. This compares to a block charge call on a dribbler, where legal guarding position can be established instantaneously before contact. Keep in mind setting a legal guarding position on an approaching dribbler is a form of a legal screen, where the target is within the dribbler's visual field and requires no time and distance prior to contact. So in C, it's up to the official to see the play developing and decide whether contact is avoidable. The final issue is what call to make if a player tries to avoid a screen but there is still contact. This isn't necessarily a foul. A player avoiding a screen is allowed some contact, which may be severe if the player stops or attempts to stop on contact and moves around the screen, as in 4:47. Obviously, this is open to debate, of which a typical varsity contest provides its fair share. How the officials rule on these plays directly affects their game control, but there can be no prescription for this judgment. The officials should tighten or loosen this decision based on the skills, emotions, and physicality of the players without becoming a free-for-all. This gets back to the POEs, which rightfully claim we've become too forgiving of contact. When in doubt, get the offense and defense thinking they must control their movements and avoid unnecessary collisions. You can often accomplish this with your voice early on without needing to call a foul on a borderline incident. The players might not mind the rough and tumble, but they sure don't like sitting on the bench. The Olympic movement's motto is Citius, Altius, Fortius, which translates to faster, higher, stronger. Basketball was never intended to include stronger and should favor the players who move faster and jump higher. You'd never know it watching some games today. Clean screens make offensive plays work and reward the talents of the players. Illegal screens negate the talents of those players and, worse, lead to frustration, injuries, and ill will. From an official standpoint, that takes us someplace we don't want the game to go. Remember the requirements of a legal screen. Penalize the team that causes the contact and set the tone by addressing illegal screens that affect the flow and safety of the game. Don't be caught dead. We can all agree knowing the rules is important, and constantly reading and reviewing these rules is equally important. It truly is an integral part of being or becoming an excellent official. From legal guarding position and verticality to the specifics of the pivot foot and components of a dribble, the rules book provides parameters in helping to identify fouls and violations. Unfortunately, there are less exciting rules that get much less attention, even though the impact they can have on the game is just as significant. So let us take time now to review one of these not-so-fun rules, the dead ball. Now you may say to yourself, really? What significance does the dead ball have other than the determination of a running clock or not? Well, there are several key factors, and, as we will learn, a dead ball does not even guarantee the clock is stopped. Knowing the ins and outs of the dead ball rule can, in many cases, alter a ruling that could be made, and knowing the status of the ball, whether it is live or dead, can play a significant part in how a play is adjudicated. So let's dive into the rules book and analyze the dead ball and its significance. A dead ball is defined in 6.7 and states a ball becomes dead or remains dead when a goal is made. Now why on earth would knowing this have any impact on officiating basketball? How about possible correctable error situations? If an official makes an error that could possibly be corrected, there is a very specific time frame in which that error can be rectified. During the first dead ball after the clock starts, or before the second live ball if the clock is already running. When a goal is successful and the ball becomes dead, the status of the ball can determine if and when that error is correctable. Another example involves timeouts. An official can only grant a timeout to a team when the ball is at the disposal or in control of a player of that team, unless the ball is dead. If the ball is dead, either team is allowed to request and be granted a timeout. Knowing the ball is dead after a made basket allows officials to grant timeouts to either team without having to determine any control of a particular team. Another situation where the ball becomes dead is the moment the whistle is sounded, whether it is a held ball, a foul, or a violation. But there are a few exceptions. In situations where a try or tap for a field goal is involved and the ball is already in flight, or if a player has started the act of shooting, the ball does not become dead. This is most commonly seen when a shooter gets fouled, and is why the ever-famous "and one" exists. Because if the ball successfully enters the basket, the goal counts. Points are awarded to the shooting team, and 1 free throw is awarded, or 2 free throws if the foul is intentional, flagrant, or disqualifying. But remember, the foul does not have to happen against the shooter. Any foul by the defense against any other player can occur, and the result would be the same minus the "and one." Now that we have established the exception to a dead ball on a foul occurring during a try for goal, let us add another variable to the equation. If that foul is made by the shooter and or a teammate of the shooter, the ball becomes dead immediately, as the exception no longer applies. So, even if the ball continues into and through the basket, the goal will not count and points will not be awarded. The dead ball rule also applies when time expires for a quarter, half, or extra period. Once the horn sounds or the light behind the backboard illuminates, the ball is dead and the quarter, half, or extra period is over. Everyone knows that, and most everyone also knows when a ball has been released from a shooter's hands and is in the air on a try for goal. An exception to this rule is made, keeping the ball live until the try ends or the airborne shooter returns to the floor. So knowing when the ball is live or dead in these specific situations is important in order to rule properly whether or not to score a goal. But the impact a dead ball can have does not end with these scoring scenarios. There are other actions for players and or bench personnel that may result in a different ruling, depending on whether the ball is live or dead. Dunking, for example, is an exciting way for players to score points during live play. However, if a player dunks or attempts to dunk a dead ball, that exact same action would now be considered illegal and penalized with a technical foul. Or how about contact that happens after the whistle is blown for a non-shooting foul? All officials know that any illegal contact during a dead ball should be considered a technical foul, right? Well, that is not exactly right. In NFHS rules, contact after the ball has become dead is to be considered incidental unless that contact is ruled to be intentional or flagrant. Only then should a technical foul be assessed. All of these situations we have addressed can have a considerable impact on the game, and each one depends on you knowing the status of the ball. So, next time you are reviewing the rules or maybe even asked to give a presentation to a group of your peers, consider covering the dead ball, because knowing and understanding the differences that may occur based on whether a ball is dead or not could mean the difference between being a good or great official. Basketball Injury Surveillance Study. Basketball continues to be one of the most popular high school sports in the United States. Effective injury prevention programs are needed to help reduce injury rates in basketball to the lowest possible level. The NFHS Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, or SMAC, and the NFHS Sport Rules Committee use data from the National High School Sports-Related Injury Surveillance Study, or High School RIO-TM, to monitor rates and patterns of injuries among high school athletics. High School RIO is currently collecting the 19th year of sports exposure and injury data. Among the 9 sports included in the original sample of High School RIO for which national estimates are constructed, i.e. football, boys and girls soccer, girls volleyball, boys and girls basketball, wrestling, baseball, and softball. In 2022-23, boys basketball injury rates ranked 5th overall, 6th in competition, and 3rd in practice. Girls basketball had the 4th highest overall and competition injury rates out of the 9 original sample sports. The ankle continues to be the most commonly injured body part for both boys and girls basketball during competition, for boys 40% and girls 31%, and practice, boys 36% and girls 31%, and sprains continue to be the most common injuries sustained in both competition, boys 45% and girls 47%, and practice, boys 39% and girls 39%. Fractures in boys basketball and girls basketball had the greatest proportion of injuries, with a time loss of more than 21 days, 40% and 52% respectively. Girls basketball continues to have a higher rate of injuries that required surgical intervention compared to boys basketball. Overall injury rates in girls basketball have increased throughout the study period, while overall injury rates in boys basketball have remained stable. While concussion rates have generally increased over time, ankle injury rates have remained relatively stable in both boys and girls basketball. There has been an increase in knee injuries over time in girls basketball, while the knee injury rates have remained stable in boys basketball. Girls basketball had the highest overall ACL injury rate in 2022-23 among the 20 sports included in the convenient sample of the high school RIO, while the overall ACL injury rate in boys basketball ranked 10th. Understanding patterns of injury in basketball is one useful tool when considering injury prevention efforts to keep basketball athletes as safe as possible. If you are interested in more information about the high school RIO study, or you are a certified athletic trainer who's interested in becoming a reporter for basketball, please email the high school RIO team at highschoolrio@datalesscenter.org. Crunch time is clutch time. Few moments are as intense and crucial as those that unfold when the end of a basketball game approaches. As the clock winds down, the officials' decisions become of utmost importance. During the last 4 minutes of the game, officials should be in high alert mode. This means they should be aware of bonus situations, clocks, and call accuracy. The officials should remind each other of game-ending procedures to prevent potential issues. It's a good idea the items listed below are covered. Crew. Late game timeouts will often provide the best opportunities to have brief crew meetings to ensure there is an awareness of how the next few minutes of the game will be played. These brief check-ins should not be elaborate discussions, but should serve as reminders about what has already happened and some of the strategies that may be applied by both teams in the closing minutes. These can typically be conducted in about 10 seconds and can be done as soon as the timeout clock has started. The crew can discuss bonus and timeout situations for each team, as well as which team the possession arrow favors. During games in which a team is trying to stop the clock, it is important to remind one another about making sure the first foul is called. Also, officials can review last-second shot responsibilities and remind each other that a try for a goal involving a catch and shoot cannot occur with 0.3 of a second or less remaining. It must be a tap. Finally, if a foul occurs as the game-ending horn sounds and the score can be tied or the game won by the ensuing free throws, officials must administer the free throws. If the free throws will not change the outcome, the free throws will not be attempted. The official administering the throw-in following the timeout should always stand at the new throw-in location. The other officials should go to that official for the conference. By standing at this location, it will be clear to both teams where play will resume. While the officials should be in sync at this time, it is also important to engage with the other crew members of the game. Official scorer. The official closest to the scorer's table can verify with the official scorer on the accuracy of the scorebook. Hopefully, any questions the scorer has had earlier in the contest were already addressed. It doesn't hurt to have another check-in about the score and to confirm the number of timeouts each team has remaining. Remember, it is not the ultimate decision of the officiating crew to grant a timeout if a team doesn't have any remaining. There may be a specific reason a coach is trying to stop the clock, even if it results in a technical foul. It is, however, good to have an idea of the strategy the team may employ if there is a situation where a timeout may fit. Also, it is pertinent to double-check the team fouls and the impact on the bonus. As noted earlier, the officials should be aware of the attempt to stop the clock by taking a foul, making sure it is a legitimate attempt to make a play on the ball. Official timer. While at the scorer's table, the official can also remind the official timer of end-of-game responsibilities. Officials are trained to constantly check the game clocks so errors can be addressed when they happen. At the end of the game, timing is of utmost importance. It is a good idea to insert a reminder to watch the officials for the clock start and clock stop signals, especially if the gym is loud and whistles may be difficult to hear. Game management and security. On some occasions, such as a rivalry game or an upset, it may be pertinent to identify the location of game management and security. The crew should already have had a conversation with game management regarding that topic. However, Taking a quick glance in their direction can provide peace of mind if there is a buzzer beater or storming of the court. Overtime. If the score is tied at the end of regulation time, inform each team and the table officials of overtime procedures. This begins with the length of the overtime period and reminding everyone it is an extension of the fourth quarter. Each team will get one additional 60-second timeout and team fouls will remain. The possession arrow will be set after the jump ball administration to start the extra period. After the game. Following the game-ending horn, the referee should confirm with the scorer that everything is correct, then leave the floor with his or her partners. In situations when the score is separated by 3 points or fewer, it may be necessary to verbally confirm with the scorer. In games where the margin of victory is greater than 3, a visual signal such as a thumbs up will suffice. Be confident everything is correct, as the official's jurisdiction ends when they leave the visual confines of the playing court. There was a time when officials sprinted off the court at the end of the game. Nowadays, it is best to connect with your crew and confidently leave the court together. There is no need to engage with coaches or teams. Remember, you will have your confirmation with the official scorer prior to the final horn. Lingering or loitering after the game is not necessary and can be misconstrued as arrogance or baiting. A solid post-game crew conference should take place in the locker room. Discuss pros and cons of the game and talk about areas of improvement for the future. This is not the point for officials to interject things they saw but did not bring up while on the court. Those matters should have been addressed on the court before the end of the game. Also, if there is any necessary information to communicate with the assigner, it is best to discuss the facts of the event to construct the game report. The crew should exit the building together and along with game management or security for safety. It is best to be vigilant until you make it to your car and exit the premises. The end-of-game procedures are quite complex but should remain routine. It is more than just congratulating your partners for a good game. It's your turn to play. NFHS Rule 434 tells us bench personnel include substitutes, coaches, managers, and statisticians. Therefore, almost anything a substitute does until becoming a player is the responsibility of the head coach, who draws an indirect technical foul if the sub is issued a technical. Play 1. A1 is seated on the bench when a fight breaks out. A1 enters the court and punches B2. Ruling 1. Even though A1 is in uniform, A1 is bench personnel because A1 is not in the game as a player. Players are the 5 team members legally on the court. A1 will be assessed a flagrant technical foul and is ejected. A1's coach will receive an indirect technical foul because bench personnel entered the fight. Had A1 been a player, no indirect technical would have been assessed. Play 2. A1 reports to the table and is waiting to enter the game when a fight breaks out and responds as in Play 1. Ruling 2. The same ruling applies. Even though A1 is not on the bench, A1 is not yet a player and is therefore still bench personnel as defined in 434. To become a player, the substitute, A1, must properly report to the scorer and be beckoned onto the court by the official. If either or both requirements aren't met and A1 enters the court anyway, A1 becomes a player when the ball becomes live. If caught in the act of entering the game improperly, A1 is subject to a substitute technical, as in 10-3. This special case absolves the coach of an indirect technical foul even though A1 still qualifies as bench personnel at that instant. Play 3. During a stoppage in play, A1 is told by the coach to enter the game. A1A bypasses the table completely and enters the court. B reports to the scorer but does not state A1's number. C reports A1's number, which is not listed in the scorebook. Or D reports properly but enters the game before being beckoned. Ruling 3. In A, by rule, a substitute technical foul should be assessed to A1. See 10-3-1. But some wide latitude might be prudent, based on the level of play and the intent of the substitute. The better course of action will likely be directing the substitute to report to the table and properly complete the substitution process. In B, A1 has reported to the scorer, but incorrectly. See Rule 3-3-1. A1 has fulfilled the conditions of 10-3-1 and 10-3-2, so it isn't automatically a technical foul. Have the player return to the table and report A1's number. Consider an unsporting technical foul if this issue persists. In C, an administrative technical foul has occurred. Treat case D the same as case A. In all 4 cases, no indirect foul is assessed to the coach. The microsecond A1 is properly beckoned by an official, A1 becomes a player, and the teammate being replaced becomes bench personnel. This creates an interesting bind in the rules if one of the 5 players already on the floor then receives a technical foul. The officials must determine whether the offending rule breaker is the same player being replaced or a teammate. The former would now be bench personnel and expose the head coach to an indirect technical, while the latter is still a player and the coach is off the hook. It's often obvious who the replaced player is, but if it isn't, wait. You're not going to restart the game with 6, are you? Once becoming a player, A1 remains a player until substituted for, disqualified, or the game ends. The rules, however, provide another way for A1 to enter the game besides the procedure described above. A team representative may advise the scorer of the substitution between halves, as in 3-3-1B. That's another way of saying the same players who finish the first half, who are not necessarily the starters, are expected to start the second half unless the scorer is advised otherwise. This creates an interesting situation. Play 4. A1 through A5 start the game, but A6 through A10 are playing at the end of the half. No one informs the scorer the original starters will start the second half, but A1 through A5 enter the floor anyway and play resumes. At the first stoppage, the scorer informs the referee the wrong players are in the game. Ruling 4, play continues. Once the ball became live, A1 through A5 became legal. See Rule 10.3.2. During timeouts and intermissions, substitutes must report to the scorer prior to the 15-second warning to prevent any deceptive use of substitutions. If they fail to do so, they must wait until the next dead ball opportunity. During free throws, they may only enter before an attempt where the ball can become live on a miss or after a make on the final throw. That means prior to the last bonus free throw attempt, but after the last attempt following intentional, flagrant, or technical fouls. How about this one? Play 5. B1 commits a technical foul. A2, the best free thrower, is on the bench at the time but substitutes into the game, replacing A3 to take the free throws. A2 makes both, and the coach then replaces A2 with A3, or B, A4 before play resumes. Ruling 5. The points scored via the free throws are legitimate, but the substitution is illegal in A and legal in B. Before the clock has run, a substitute may enter the game and then withdraw, but a player may not leave the game and return as a substitute, as in 3-3-4. The exception is a player who has been directed by an official to leave the game may return if a timeout is first requested by that player's team. A bleeding or improperly dressed player, for example, can return through a timeout, but A3 cannot in this play because A3 has not been directed to leave. Other stipulations are placed on proper substitution procedure in Rule 3.3. Familiarize yourself with those requirements, but be assured you can prevent most problems they would cause. You do that by establishing early in the game proper protocols will be followed. Work closely with and support the scorer to make sure substitutes are properly documented and beckoned onto the court. Keep in mind the bad things that can happen during substitutions and manage them by heading them off before they occur. Look both ways before you cross the street.